June 16, 2025. This was the day when 6 lakh bike taxi owners had their world switched off. Suddenly in the morning, they wake up and realize that their app has been surgically changed. Initially, they thought it was a software glitch or there was no network, and then as messages started pouring in, it became official. As of June 16, 2025, bike taxis in Karnataka have been banned. What followed was absolute chaos for the drivers for whom this bike paid their bills and for millions of commuters who were relying on this cheap mode of travel. Hi guys, welcome to my YouTube channel Everything with Dr. James. Today we are going to be dealing with the bike taxi issue in Karnataka, and let's attach the ethical angles and the morals associated with it. Imagine you're a bike taxi driver. You're not doing it full time, you're doing it part time, and the other half you're studying in a college, and the money from this bike taxi is helping you to pay your college fees. You are a family man and driving this bike taxi in addition to your regular day job, and that is keeping your family afloat and feeding your children. You're a migrant worker from another state and working in a different state, and this money is helping you to put food on the table for you and for your family, and suddenly one day, because of a software update, all this disappears and your income is cut into half. In fact, for some people who had only this bike taxi and they were riding it full time, this bike was their office and they were using it for their entire livelihood, and their income is reduced to zero. This is what happened on June 16, 2025, when the Karnataka government banned the bike taxis. So what exactly happened on June 15, 2025? This is a long simmering battle which is existing between the Karnataka government and the companies like Ola and Uber who are running these bike taxis. The main problem is the gap in the Motor Vehicles Act between the 20th century and the 21st century. This Motor Vehicles Act regarding the commercial use of bikes was last updated in 1988. That time they had told that bikes with whiteboard cannot be used for commercial services. Fair enough. But where they made a mistake was they should have told that if a bike has to be used for commercial purposes, an option should be given where this white plate can be converted into a yellow board. Just like in cars, if a car has to be used in Ola and Uber, they have to convert the white plate into a yellow plate before they use it. But this option was not provided in bikes. But I still agree with the Motor Vehicles Act in 1988, because that time there was no option of bike taxis, or there was no idea that a bike can be used as taxis. But what the government should have seen was, as the tide was changing and more bikes have been used for taxi purposes, this policy change should have been made. Earlier this year, the Karnataka government had said that by June 15, all the bikes should stop running on road. Till then, we will make a policy and tell what is the future of these bike taxi drivers. But this was still a grey area and not many people took it seriously, and still bike taxis are continuing to run. Lakhs of people were earning their livelihood from this, and finally a last verdict came that June 15 is the final date after which bike taxis cannot run on board. But the way the government enforced it was also a mistake. They made the companies only to enforce this ban, and the companies, the very source of the livelihood for these bike taxi runners, messaged the drivers that nowadays you should not take your bike and go, and temporarily this bike taxi services have been paused in Karnataka. This is not only happening in Karnataka. I am just using this as an example because it happened recently. This has been happening in a lot of states over a period of time in the last couple of years. And now the fate of lakhs of drivers who have been using this to earn a livelihood either as full-time or as part-time is hanging in the balance. On June 16, 2025, Bangalore woke up to absolute chaos. It was not only the lives of the drivers which were affected. You have to think of the commuters. Now commuters have made an idea that they are going to use only these bike taxis for their transport. Many people will use this bike taxi to go to their workplace, but some people will use this bike taxi as a cheap mode to go to a place from where they can use a transport to go to work. Like they can go to the metro station from their house, they can go to the bus stand from the house, and from there they will take the bus or the train and go go to their workplace, and it is going to cost them a meager 40-50 rupees. Now the same ride is going to cost them 120 rupees. See, it is becoming double. For a middle class person like me, this is going to cause a severe strain in my economy, where I was spending 50 rupees a day for a one-way travel. I am spending 100 rupees. So when I come back, it is going to be 200 rupees. So it is actually becoming 4 times more than what I was paying previously, which is going to cause a strain in my economy. Then let's take for an example, I have money to afford. The number of bikes far outweigh the number of autos or four-wheeler taxis present in that area. So even if I can afford an auto or taxi, I have to wait for the auto or taxi for a longer time than I had to wait for the bike, and this bike can go quickly also, but in traffic to go with auto or a four-wheeler taxi is going to take longer time than in this bike. The another problem which arose was, the government says that the carbon footprint also will increase because one person needed a bike only to travel, but the same one person now uses an auto or a taxi in which 4 or 3 people can go, and this is going to increase the carbon footprint of the city and increase the pollution. Let's go to the root cause of this trouble. It all started when the auto drivers and the bike taxi drivers started arguing with each other. Now what these auto taxi drivers argue is that we have spent decades creating a healthy relationship with the city. We have invested a lot in government permits, and our vehicles are fully regularized, and we renew our permits also. The bike taxis, on the other hand, do not have any permits, and they operate as if they are running in a black market. This argument by auto taxi drivers is fair, and I am in their side for this argument. But this is where the government should have stepped in and bought some proper regulations for these bike taxis, such that they also will not have any problems with these auto drivers. The second thing is, the big companies like Ola and Uber who own these bike taxis have been fighting in court against this ban, saying that it has generated a lots of jobs and livelihood. But now, since the ban has come, they have stopped this service. The multi-billion-dollar companies are continuing to go on, but who is affected is our people who have made this bike taxi, invested in the bikes, and they have been paying EMIs, and they are the ones who are totally affected by this. And these companies like Ola and Uber are being accused of utilizing this grey area of no proper policy by the government to use it for their own gain, and when suddenly the ban came, they washed their hands off, and finally our bike taxi drivers are getting affected because of it. This chaos in Bangalore has thrown light on India's growing problem with this gig economy. When the gig economy first came into India, it was a light to a great future, job opportunities and financial freedom. But as time is going on, we are realizing all this is coming at the cost of job stability and irregular income. So when these platforms employ our bike taxi drivers, they don't take them as employees, they take them as platform partners, because of which India's labor laws do not apply to these laborers. So what happens is, rules like minimal wage, working hours do not apply here, and these bike taxi drivers can be exploited as much as possible by our Ola, Uber or any multinational company which is running this bike taxi. This is where I feel the government has to set in and should not be resistant to change. They have to be okay with change, but they have to bring a more regularized approach to it, such that everything is legal and these bikes can get permits to drive, and these employees are also treated properly. So some states like Rajasthan are slowly bringing policies which will help our gig workers, but still we are a long way away from creating a proper policy for our gig workers, such that even their rights are protected, because at the end of the day they are also our fellow citizens and their rights have to be saved. This one problem has shed light on growing conflict in modern India. How we can use technology to generate new jobs without affecting the dignity and the job security of the people doing this work. Do like, share and subscribe me for more videos like this.